business, delegates, because we do want to be out of here today. The hotel is only booked for today. We've no booking for tomorrow. And we're going to start where we left off when we adjourned yesterday afternoon, dealing with party affairs. And when we adjourned, we had motion number 77 had been moved and seconded, and the amendment to motion 77 had been moved and seconded, and motion number 79 and the amendment had been moved and seconded, and I had called speakers, and what I was hoping to do was to compartmentalise the motions in order to avoid confusion. And I hope we had taken all the speakers on motions 77 and 79. And then we proceeded to have motion 78 moved and seconded. And then we adjourned. So I want to invite any speakers now offering on motion 78. Again, compartmentalising. Yes, delegate. And again, can I remind everybody to please state your name and branch or whatever. And it's 1 minute for speakers.
Evan Ryan, UCC and Wexford Town branches. Comrades, I'm proud to speak in favour of this motion today. I think it's an excellent motion. It will do a lot to democratise our party. Labour as a party has an excellent record on democracy. But something else we have an excellent record on. We have an excellent record on getting great senators into the party. Like what this motion is about strengthening party democracy. It's about giving more candidates the opportunity to run, giving more candidates the opportunity to form debate, to challenge to challenge different leadership candidates. What it's about is it's about allowing ourselves the opportunity to listen, to agree, to disagree with these candidates. It's not about who you back or who you don't back to be our next leader. It's about allowing ourselves to pick excellent candidates when, if and when they arise. It's important to me as a party member that our party prospers into the future. It's important to remember that the cause of Ireland is the cause of Labour. The cause of Labour is the cause of Ireland. A strong Labour Party is good for this country, and we need a strong Labour Party. We need the best leadership candidates. We need the best leaders we can get. When we look at some of our excellent senators, people like Mary Robinson, people like Michael D. Higgins historically, who've done amazing work from the Seanad, I think when you look into the 21st century, when you look at new politics, there's a lot of ways of doing things. There were aspersions cast yesterday that senators are very, I suppose, neutered, for want of a better word, in what they can do. But we have spokespersons, we can have Dáil leaders. Sinn Féin had a Dáil leader for years when their leader didn't sit in the Dáil. It's completely doable. And if you look at, the success of Sinn Féin, even since. So to summarise, it's not about who you want for leader. It's about empowering our members to back the best person for leadership. Senators can and will broaden the dialogue when it comes to elections. And Levor Dáil, votáil son rún seachtal hucht iniu. Gurf míle maithagat as och téis achlum.
Thank you, Evan. And I misled you before you spoke. It's 2 minutes, sorry, not 1 minute. 2 minutes. I hope I didn't curtail you. It was more precise anyway. Now, any further speakers now, please, on motion number 78? Mick?
Good morning, delegates. Mick Sweeney from Howth Sutton Branch, Dublin Bay North. In spite of the reasons given by the mover, I think, last speaker, I have the gravest reservations about proceeding along the lines suggested, because it sends a bad message to everyone, including the membership, that we as a party are happy to downsize and not to have representation in the main legislative body that we have. We won't have a leader. If we decide to go outside Dáil Éireann, we won't have a leader to talk to directly in the House to challenge the government of the day or other political parties. It also shows, the comparison with Sinn Féin and others who may or may not. We could have a comparison with Renew Ireland. I saw their leader on TV. You can be sure, with 7 TDs, we've got very little airtime, certainly in the first couple of years after the last election. Nobody's going to give us the type of time that Renew Ireland are getting and other unrepresentative groups. So the more we have a mindset that we go outside of our parliamentary party, the bigger the message we're sending is that we accept failure of ourselves to convince enough people to vote for us in order to implement our policies. I strongly urge people to vote against Motion 78. I probably was well-intentioned, but I feel that there's more dangers to us. It would keep us permanently in the situation of just about existing, if not dying altogether. Thank you, delegates. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Nick. Any other speakers offering? Sean.
Good morning. Sean Ryan, Dunnabate branch, the Labour Party, and former TD, and as somebody who has been a member of this fantastic party of ours for nearly 56 years, and been a TD. And as someone who has been a TD and a senator, for 6 months and a senator for 18 years, I have always been in favour of democracy of the party and working towards that. But in all fairness to this particular motion, there will be severe difficulties if this is passed in the context of the way it's been proposed at the moment. We have to have a person who is elected by the people as a leader of our party. And Dáil Éireann is the place for that to be expressed. And I can assure you that, in fact, if it is left to if somebody of high quality in the Senate, we will not get that opportunity to express it on a morning basis. There's another point that I want to bring to your attention. A lot of discussions and negotiations will take place after a general election. But after a general election, we don't have new senators for about 2 months after the election. So who is basically going to represent the party in those type of negotiations? In all fairness to those who are proposing this, and I would suggest to you, keep on your efforts to try and get more democracy in the party, but on this particular issue, it would not be in the interest of all of us as a party and for the people who we represent in the constituency if this was passed this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean. Now, are there any other speakers offering on motion 78? Yes, Del. 3. 3, is that it? 3? 4. 4. I'll take those 4 and no more.
Gramila Mahaguz, Kilcarla, Simon Pindell, Kinsale and UC branch. Whether or not we pitch this motion as the dying breaths of a struggling party is down to us, I think. For too long we have been talking ourselves down. For too long we have let commentators in the media cast us as a party in crisis, even though we're not. We do face difficulties, but we aren't a party in crisis. We need to take back the debate. We need to give our representatives the opportunity to shape the debate. We need to give the space for the best and brightest of our representatives to lead the party. We need to give our members the opportunity to choose from the best and from the widest range of representatives in our parliamentary party. What I pitch it as is we need to show the people of Ireland that there is more democracy and opportunity in the Labour Party now than there is in Leo Varadkar's so-called Republic of Opportunity. I therefore commend the motion. Vote for it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Now, there were two other speakers.
Ger Dorgan, Mick Mulligan branch, Dublin Bay North. I think this is a good motion. I think what we saw yesterday at the conference was democracy in action, when rather than having delegates coming to a conference, we opened it up to everybody. And I think that made a big difference to the conference yesterday as well. Also in the elections of officers yesterday, there was no... there was very few, before, if you sent your delegates, you told your delegates who to vote for. Yesterday it was open to people, and the candidates were around and people spoke to them. So it was a more use of democracy within the party, and I think the party is stronger for that. This motion, I think, is a good one. We need, as a party, to democratise the party more, and there's some other very good motions here as well in this whole area. We shouldn't fear the future. Many parties, both in Ireland and across Europe, don't have their party leader as a member of their parliament. We're a small parliament. We are a small country where everybody knows everybody else anyway, or somebody belonged to them, right? We must have faith in ourselves as members of a party as well. There's nobody going to vote for a senator just because he's not a TD. If there's a person of that calibre in the party, that person will have to go through the whole leadership race anyway. So this may not be used in the next 10 or 20 years. It may be very necessary in the next 10 or 20 years. It is not an admission of defeat. Is it admission of a party who is strengthening itself and a party who is also democratising itself and making itself more open, A, to its members, and B, to scrutiny by the general populace. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Jack, you want to speak?
Jack Merriman, Holt Sutton branch. Delegates, I do oppose this amendment today. I don't think that it would, like my comrade Mick said, I don't think that it would be in the best interest of the party. I think that it will be potentially damaging in the media, because even though the comparison was made that Sinn Féin have had leaders in the Dáil, they've moved towards having their party president in the Dáil recently. The only recent comparison to this is when the PDs allowed their leader to come from the Seanad, and it didn't work out too well for them anyway. So I think that the context of extra-parliamentary leaders in other countries is different, because in other countries you don't have to be a TD to be a minister. Even the Prime Minister of Spain isn't an MP in their parliament. So I think that it's wholly necessary in Ireland that our leader comes from the Dáil, and I would very much urge you to vote against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And the final speaker on this motion is John.
Good morning, delegates. Just like previous colleagues, I would also like to oppose this motion. I want to acknowledge the motion is well-intentioned, and I realise it is an attempt to expand party democracy, which is very important. I mean, Labour is a democratic party, has a long tradition of party democracy, particularly compared to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and we should maintain and enhance that. It's also worth saying that we've been very fortunate in the calibre and quality of the senators that we've had, both previously and the senators we have today. But I just make 2 quick points. I don't want our senators to remain senators forever. I want them to become TDs. I want them to be members of the Dáil. I want them to play the fullest possible part in the life of the party and indeed in the running and the governance of the country. Unfortunately, I think this motion sends the wrong message. I'm not sure the motion would have come forward if we had more than 7 TDs, and obviously we don't plan to have 7 TDs forever. I'm sure everyone here plans that we'll move back into double figures and further than that in terms of the number of TDs we have. So I think it's important not to send the message that Labour is a peripheral party, that we're unable or somehow unwilling to find a leader from the ranks of our TDs. And it's also important at this time, which is a crucial time in the history of the party, not to send out a message of weakness. And I fully understand that's not the intention of the proposers, but unfortunately I think that's what the motion would do. Finally, it was mentioned that we have spokespersons who are senators. We do, and they're excellent. We also have spokespersons who are councillors. And as I understand it, we also have spokespersons currently who are ordinary members of the party, which is very positive. But that isn't an argument for this motion. So I would urge you, while acknowledging that it's well-intentioned, I'd urge you to reject the motion on this occasion. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, John. And now we're going to proceed to take motion 80, 81, 82, 83, 84 and 85. And we will vote then on all of these motions at the end of the debate on those motions. So, Joanna,
okay.
Motion number 80.
Joanna Tuffy, member of the Lucan and Palmerstown branch, Dublin Midwest. This motion, it's one of 2 motions, because the Trinity branch motion is a similar motion. It's about what happens to motions after they're passed a conference. And why did the Lucan branch put this motion? We put it because at the last conference, our motion was passed that basically Labour would not go into government unless the measurable reduction of income inequality was an objective of that government, that it was agreed as an objective of that government. And the thing about that was, like, that motion was passed, it was fundamental. You know, it was what's called a red line, in quotation marks, because I'm not so sure about this word red line, like as if you can list off red lines. Labour has to be about fundamental things. And, you know, the things that should determine whether or not we go into government or not, they should be something that absolutely distinguishes us and sets us apart from everybody else, including other so-called left parties. You know, being in favour of sláinte care is not it. Sláinte care is not a fundamental issue. Every party is for it. What might be something that would be a red line for the Labour Party in relation to health is to abolish private health care, or in education to ban the charging of fees by schools. So, like, that's where we need to really get into things. And I suppose what I would say about red lines is, because it's in another motion as well, like, who decides red lines for the party? And I would say it's the members in party conference. That's where our fundamentals should be decided. That's where it should be decided what would determine whether or not we go into government or not. And not the position we had, for example, at the last delegate conference to go into government. And as everybody knows, I voted against going into government. And the reason I did was we were handed a document. We had a very short time frame to decide it. Things were revealed on the day. And it just wasn't strong enough. I didn't think we'd be hammered as much as we were, but I knew we would get hammered at the next election. And for us to go into government, it needed to be really worth it. We needed to do something that nobody else would do, and that it would be basically impossible for other parties to do. It would be that radical, you know. And I think we did a lot of good work in the last government. We didn't do something that would really set us apart. Like, for example, Labour in 1945 in Britain, when they established the NHS that still stands to this day. So the reason we're putting this motion is, when we pass motions at conference, that is our policy, and it should be followed up our motion last year has been basically ignored. I've never heard it mentioned by the party leader. It's something fundamentally
Joanna,
socialist,
you're nearly a minute over time.
That's why we're putting this. Thank you.
Again, delegates, can I emphasise, I'm quite prepared to stay here until midnight. But if you're going to speak for 1/3 more of the time than is available, you're depriving somebody else of that time. So is there a seconder for motion number 80? Formally seconded. And now motion 81 in the name of Trinity Branch. Formally moved. Thank you, delegate. Is it formally seconded? Formally seconded. Thank you, delegate. Motion number 82 in the name of Donegal Constituency Council. Seamus.
Seamus Rogers, Donegal Constituency Council. Now, I'm not advocating divide between urban and rural areas, or, it's not my intention, because we're all committed Labour Party members. But again, the same as my neighbouring constituency of Sligo Leitrim, they have a similar motion, and for we're lost, we feel that we might as well be in outer Siberia at the moment, and that the Labour Party doesn't seem to be on the ground in rural areas. We try our best, we gather members and all to that, but again, just the responses in a lot of areas, I will sure they're only covering urban areas. And I know for a fact that small towns and villages need a rural hinterland in order to stay alive, and that's not happening at the moment. I canvassed recently for Michael D. Higgins, our president, glad to have him elected there, and we're getting that message all right. And I know from words from a famous poet, Ní eicim fu mulahan na geon na alar it's now coscuan. It means, and the fact that I just take an example from my neighbouring GA club, the club of the Donegal County GA manager, where the players are scattered all over the world. They're not able to field on the rage teams at the moment. And I think this is at slide. Again, I would stress that fisheries and agriculture and all of this must be to the forefront in addressing the rural areas. Seamus. And in all fairness, the former TD, Mary Upton, a number of years ago, she did present a paper there on rural development.
Seamus,
we need to address this again now and ensure that rural areas are alive and well. Again, broadband mentioned there. Surely we can do better than that with the message that went on there. 70 years ago, without, I suppose, modern machinery or anything, the ESB said, let us have light. And in all fairness, this is one of the best semi-state companies ever founded, that body ensured that lights and power went into every home and offshore islands.
Seamus, your time is up.
And
Seamus, please. Seamus, your time is up. Please. Seamus, your time is up. Your time is up. Can you cut off the mic, please? Cut off the mic. Seamus, your time is up. Okay. Thanks, Seamus. Thanks, Seamus. Next speaker. Is there a seconder for motion number 82? Formally seconded. Thank you, Seamus. Motion number 83 in the name of the Sligo branch from Sligo Leitrim constituency.
Hi, my name is Nessa Cosgrove. I'm from the Sligo Leitrim constituency. I'm just following on from what Seamus said. I suppose the motion that I have raised is the perception that this is a Dublin Labour Party rather than an All-Ireland Labour Party. But it's my first time at a conference, and I can very happily say I'm after all the inspirational speeches we heard last night and meeting such people that are very willing to offer support. We're delighted to say that hopefully this perception will be taken away. But I think the Labour Party is really losing out on a lot of voters in Sligo and Leitrim. There's something amazing happening in Sligo and Leitrim at the moment. There's a huge amount of people that are very proud to have repealed the 8th, huge support for marriage equality, and there's a lot of socially conscious and progressive people that are not being represented. We're fed up with, I suppose, the elected representatives we have at the moment. They're conservative, they're entitled politicians that we just don't want to vote for anymore. But I think we need help. We need help from Dublin, and we need help that we can push this through. I'm running myself in the next council and county council election, and I'm hoping that. But I was delighted to meet a lot of people last night to say that they're very willing to come down and offer support because we need your help badly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. With 10 seconds to spare, by the way. Is there a seconder for motion number 83? Formally seconded. Thank you, Delegate. Now, before I move... Sorry, Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry. Motion number 84 in the name of Finglas branch. Jerry Kerr.
Thank you, Delix. I'll try and beat the 10-second record there, Jack. You haven't started the clock yet, have you? No. Yeah. Finglas, Sinn Féin, vision of remembrance, Liam Mellows, gun-toting, fully dressed, volunteer, statue being erected now. What is our vision of freedom? I'm asking you, delegates, please, can we get together on this one? The vision I'm putting forward to you is a new concept of freedom. The Garden of Remembrance in Dublin, as you know, commemorates all James Connolly, back to 1798, all those who fought for our freedom. But what has happened in the last 100 years? And we are at a unique time now to remember it in a different way and celebrate it. Mothers in mother and babies' homes were discriminated against, dreadfully. We had Magdalen laundries. We had industrial and reformatory schools at a huge level, only comparable with Russia. We've had... Sorry, I'm just losing. We've LGBT people in their own community discriminated against. All these were left behind. So I'm asking within Dublin City Council that there's a garden of remembrance, call it of freedom, of those not left behind, of those lest we forget or deny, and somehow or other throughout the whole country, we as Labour members, in whatever way possible, bring this new concept of freedom, that we are leaving no one behind and we are celebrating our new republic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a seconder for motion number 84? Formally seconded. Thank you, delegates. And now motion number 85. Motion number 85 in the name of the Drumcondra Glasnevin branch in Dublin Central. Joe. Thank you, Joe. Formally moved. Is it formally seconded? Formally seconded, I think. Formally seconded. Thank you, delegates. Now, before I move to the debate on motions 80, 81, 82, 83, 84 and 85, I notice that the Fraternal delegate from the UK Labour Party, Stephen Pound MP, has been in the room all morning, long before most of us, and he was here yesterday too. And would you extend, please, a very warm welcome to Comrade Stephen Pound. Stephen, the fraternal delegate from the UK Labour Party is always very, very welcome at our conference, and you in particular, Stephen, are very, very welcome indeed. And I hope you would convey our good wishes to Jeremy Corbyn and all those who are fighting for the UK working class and for the values of social solidarity across the world.
Consider it done.
So now, motions number 80, 81, 82, 83, 84 and 85 are before the floor for debate. Are there any speakers offering? 2. Jack, do you want to go first? 3. Jack? John? Ger, sorry, Ger, my apologies.
Ger Dorgan, Dublin Bay North, Mick Mulligan Branch. I want to speak to 80 and also to 81 because they're similar motions. And again, what they have to do is democracy in action and information flow going from the top to the bottom and the other way as well. It's very important that conference decisions are taken seriously, and that if there's not a motion, but people want information to come back to them as to what has been done to the motions. Conference is the main area for the decision makers of this party. And I think Joanne, when she was putting that motion, was very articulate in that. Like most of us, I was in the room in 2011, and we were given this huge document, and basically there was a lock-in for a few hours. Now, I think that if we make decisions at this conference, we need to know what's happened to them. If they're referred back, it's like getting the third secret of Fatima to get answers to some of the questions. Everybody knows the third secret of Fatima, so I won't elucidate on that. But it's very important that people just don't get two or 3 minutes and we say, yeah, it's grand, we got that passed. What happened to it? It was important enough to be on the floor of a national conference. It's important enough that the feedback should come to the members and should come to the branches. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. John?
John Walsh, Clonsilla, Dublin West. I'd also like to support motions 80 and motion 81 by Trinity Branch. I suppose just briefly say, this is about internal party democracy, and it's about ensuring proper communication with members. As a party, we have often struggled with internal communication, and I won't put it more strongly than that. And that was particularly the case at times while we were in government. So it's extremely important that when policy motions are passed by conference, there's a clear line of accountability, and that they're looked at by the Central Council, and it's clear that they've been acted on, or if they haven't been acted on, that a valid reason is offered. And I suppose policy formation ultimately in the Labour Party should rest with the membership. So in terms of talking about red lines or policies that might be considered as conditions for entering government, those should be driven by the membership. And I would urge delegates not to be misled or placed in a position where the party is committed to supporting stable administrations based on red lines which are not even stated. It can't be a minimum red line if it's not even put in writing. I think we'd be very foolish as a party to get into talking about red lines or offering government stability. It's not our role or our job as the Labour Party to offer government stability after the next election. It's our role to transform society. And we should rebuild. We should prioritise rebuilding our strength as a party until we're in a position to transform society, and we shouldn't be in a position where we're a mudguard to a major Conservative party. So I thank the Chair for his indulgence in allowing me to speak in a motion that's already been debated. I'd urge you to vote for 80 and 81 and reject 79. Thank you very much.
It was too late to stop you, John. Andrew?
Good morning, comrades. Andrew O'Brien, Clondalkin, Rathcoole and Dublin Midwest.
It's lovely to see you all again here. Just in the spirit of the hand of friendship that we reached out with last night, but that Brendan reached out last night to the Social Democrats and the Green Party, I'd like to give a special mention to Councillor Gary Gannon on his achievement of preventing the sale of the Sean McDermott Street laundries. And I want to use this opportunity to speak in favour of motion 84, that I know our colleagues on Dublin City Council, that they have worked very hard with their Green and Social Democrat and Progressive colleagues in order to prevent that sale. And I would like to see that as a site of the remembrance of what has happened to the marginalised groups in Irish society across those years. And I would ask you to please support motion 84. Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you, Andrew. Willie.
Thanks, Chair. Willie Hamilton, Newbridge Branch, the Labour Party. I'm here to support motion 80 and 81. I think this is fundamental to democracy and everything that the Labour Party is about. And if we're serious about democracy, we have to be serious in respect of how our policies are formulated and how they find their way into a manifesto. I don't believe that motion 79 is in contradiction of these two. I think it's actually part and parcel and essential to it. Yesterday I was electing a national executive, and when I was marking my ballot paper in that national executive election, I was very mindful that the people I was putting forward were the people that were going to challenge this whole concept of other people deciding their policies and other people deciding their manifesto. In our constitution, this is the decision-making body of this party, and we should insist, and our national executive from their first meeting should insist, that the policies that are adopted in this conference are the policies that are our red line issues and are going to find themselves into the manifesto, and we should be briefed on a regular basis as to how those policies are finding themselves in our manifesto. And our manifesto is ready to go long before an election. So we all know what the red line issues are. We all know what our manifesto is going to be, and that's what we should be campaigning on. I ask people to support these two motions.
Thank you, Willie. Do you want to speak, Delegate? Yes, please. One last speaker, and then I'll call on the Chair of Standing Orders to move that we extend conference to midnight.
Thanks, Jack. Liam van der Speck, Labour Cavan. I just want to make a quick point on motion 83. I think it's a good point. Other speakers have spoken about how the Labour Party shouldn't be just, a bulwark for the right-wing parties and voting fodder. Well, if we aspire to be more than that, we have to be a party that doesn't just cater to urban areas. We have to be a party for the whole of Ireland. If we look at constituencies like mine and Cavan, we have no seats, none on any council, none at all. That should be taken seriously as a problem by the party, and I think asked why that is the case. Because left-wing issues like education and work and childcare and health, those all completely apply to rural Ireland just as much as they apply to urban Ireland. And we have to ask ourselves why these chancellors like the Healy Rays are being heard and not us, because when we don't step in there, those people do. And I had a few other points now, hold on. But if we look at Ireland, rural Ireland, we have, a lack of foreign direct investment. I'm a computer science graduate. I'm trying to find work in Cavan, but it's probably not going to happen. I'm probably have to work partly in Dublin because there's just almost nothing there. And it all goes to Dublin. You ask Pascal Donoghue why that's the case. I say, oh, well, they don't have the infrastructure out there. Well, it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. If you don't build it, then yeah, they're not going to come, and they're not going to come because you're not building it. So we don't have a train. A motorway doesn't even come half the way. So that's why people feel left behind. And that's as much to blame for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. But we have to make that argument and show that we're going to do better for them. So I urge you to support that. And we're going to be a bigger party, and we have to cater for everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, delegates, we're going to move to the vote on all of these motions. and I'm going to take the vote in the order in which we took the motions. So, in other words, I'm going to take the vote on motion number 77, then on motion... Sorry? Yes, yeah, I do, but I do. Thank you, Dermot. No, just the amendment to take. Sorry, you're correct, Dermot. I take your point of order. I should have invited the General Secretary to respond to the debate on party affairs.
Nearly got away with it, Dermot. Thank you for that. Much appreciated.
My apologies. My apologies, Brian. Go ahead, Brian. Don't use too much time.
I won't use much time. I can see it. I do appreciate that, Dermot. Thank you on Sunday morning to get me up and talking. I'm not going to talk for long. I won't use the full 2 minutes. I think what's been said from last night and today is about internal party democracy. So the votes that happen here are what actually decides what policy is. So certainly on 77, 78 and 79, they're for you to decide, rather than from the platform or from guidance to come from head office or from the party leader or anybody else for you to tell you what way to vote. So this morning you will decide on those votes. On the rest of them, I absolutely acknowledge that there are issues in relation to the party and the resources that we have on how we can help rural constituencies, and I acknowledge more work needs to be done. I accept actually what's put in there, and we will do our best on all of them. And from 80, sorry, it is Sunday morning, if you bear with me for a second, from 80 to 85, I would be absolutely supportive on them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And now we're going to take the vote on the motions in the order in which we took the motions. So we're going to deal with motion 77 and deal with motion 79 and then move on to motion 78 and the others. So we may require tellers, I don't know. All of them. So the first motion we're going to deal with is motion number 77. There is an amendment to that motion in the name of the Jim Kemmy UCC branch in Cork South Central. I'm going to put the amendment to the floor first. All in favour of the amendment, please show. All against? I declare the amendment carried. And now the motion including the amendment which provided for the deletion of the words "and extreme left." All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion carried. And now motion number 79, which also is accompanied by an amendment in the name of the Clondalkin Rathcoole branch in Dublin Mid-West. I'm going to put the amendment first. All in favour of the amendment, please show. All against the amendment? I declare the amendment lost. And now motion number 79 without the amendment. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion lost. And now we move to motion number 78, which envisages changing the party constitution to extend the franchise for leadership candidates to senators. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion lost. Now, motion number 80. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion carried. Motion number 81. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion carried. Motion number 82. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion carried. Motion number 83. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion carried. Motion number 84. All in favour, please show. All against? I declare the motion carried. On motion number 85, all in favour, please show. I declare, all against? Carried overwhelmingly, and I declare the motion carried. So now,